And so today, for the first part, I just wanted to take some time and share with you some exciting results that we have had with the community garden that we are a part of with our school. And so we decided that we would take 5 plots and we would plant some seeds and see what the Lord could do with it. So before I share with you these delicious results, let us pray and ask the Lord to bless our time and inspire us to be a little bit more healthy. Lord, thank you so much for this opportunity to share the good news of gardening. And we ask that you will help us to make a decision to take that step toward growing our own food. And I ask that you will make everything clear. May everything that will be shared appear and be appealing to every eye so that they will know that this too is possible for them. And they will reap the benefits, as so many are reaping the benefits from growing their own food. So we thank you once again for this opportunity to share this good news. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so let me start with some of the rewarding results that we've gotten from our gardening. One of the things that we did this year was we planted something that was a little easy for some to plant, and those were tomatoes. And these are Roma tomatoes, and they came out beautifully. We actually planted some seeds, the students and I, we planted some seeds, and then none of them grew. And so we just said, okay, maybe we need to replant. So we went back again. We put some more seeds in the ground, a little bit more than we did before. And before long, we had some very beautiful and delicious results. We are eating these tomatoes for dinner, for lunch, on sandwiches, in salads, and they are just simply delicious. So tomatoes are very easy. As a matter of fact, I have a Roma tomato here. In another plot in the community garden, there's someone growing some cherry tomatoes, and these are delicious. I'm not a big fan of eating tomatoes raw unless it's on a salad or on a sandwich, but I know Faith really loves these, and Chris was popping them in his mouth last night for dinner, and they're very juicy and sweet. So these are very easy to grow with a lot of benefits to tomatoes, health benefits that you can get. Also, I want to share with you some of the things that are growing also. These are onions. Both you can eat the scallion part of the onion, the green part of the onion plant at the top. And of course, we eat the onion bulb all the time. These are all organic vegetables that are growing in an organic garden. That means that we're not using any pesticides or any chemicals, but just simply relying on the work of the Lord, the rain, the water, and just the care of the plant itself, and making sure that we're weeding, making sure that everything is continuing to grow as God would have them to. Also, what we're also growing are carrots. Now, we would thought these were pretty cool because we actually did not plant any carrot seeds this year. But from the years past and what was already in the ground, these carrots start to come up. And so now we have these little baby carrots. Some are a little bit bigger, some are a little bit smaller, but overall you can still see that they're still producing good results from even the planting of them last year. So these are all shapes and sizes. For some people, they just may see the green from the top and they're thinking, what's that? That's a weed. But when you go and you pull it up, and you can really benefit from the results. One of the other things I wanted to show you, make sure you can hear me. One of the other things I wanted to show you that's growing in our garden are watermelon. Now, these are little baby mini watermelons, but just as good as the ones that you buy in the grocery stores, except you don't have to pay $3 or $4 or $5 or $6 for a watermelon to enjoy it. And so we picked this one. There are many others growing in the garden right now, ready for someone to enjoy, who's not afraid of eating something from the ground. Now, we are really excited about these because these are collard greens. And these collard greens, we planted maybe about a month ago, and already they are producing some nice, healthy leaves. And we are eating them. We are sauteing. Will come up. And lastly, I want to show you, well, two things I want to show you. These are mustard greens. Now, you'll hear Chris talk about this a little bit more in just a minute, but these mustard greens have been the most rewarding for us. As a matter of fact, we planted 2 rows of mustard greens, and they have been producing since the end of May. So since May, we've been getting mustard greens galore. And some people, they shy away from mustard greens because they have a spicy taste. As a matter of fact, I grew up in the South, so in Mississippi, you see all kinds of greens, collard greens, mustard greens, turnip greens. But overall, nothing beats green leafy vegetables. Why? Because there's so many benefits that you can get from green leafy vegetables. Anything from vitamin A to vitamin C, B6 vitamins, antioxidants, so many nutrients, fiber. There's so many things that you get from eating fresh, organic, green leafy vegetables, especially when you add them to your daily diet. And so these are just a few things. Now I want to share with you one of our favorites that are growing in the garden, and Christar is actually eating these. These are blackberries, and they are delicious. They are growing just like crazy. They are, every time we go up there are so many to pick that we can't even pick them all. And they are juicy, delicious. They make a great breakfast, a great lunch snack, and also a great dessert. As a matter of fact, Christar is eating blackberries and vegan whipped cream for dessert at night because blackberries, to let you know a little bit of the benefits, they have a powerful antioxidant that's noted by its dark purple color. So when you eat blackberries, as a matter of fact, it's recommended you eat at least 10 a day. And if you eat 10 blackberries a day, you're getting enough antioxidants in your body to help build and make stronger your cells. And it's doing so many other things. It's fighting against heart disease. It's fighting against high blood pressure. It's doing so much for your body just for you eating something simple, delicious, and fresh. So these are some of the things that are growing in our garden. The reason why we wanted to share that with you today is because it doesn't take much. You are a believer and you believe in what the Lord has said. If we sow something, we will reap it. And even if you just take a little pot of soil and start with one seed, you'll be amazed at what you will see. As a matter of fact, a lot of these things, like I was saying, they were planted years ago and they are still producing fruits and vegetables just from that one-time planting. And before I'm done, and Chris comes on with showing you how to prepare some of this delicious food, one of the other things that we're growing in our garden are flowers. And these are chrysanthemums and zinnias. And what they do when you put them in the middle of your garden is they draw pollinators. They draw butterflies, which are going to spread the pollen from plants to plants, which are basically very, very healthy for your plants. And it keeps everything growing the way God will have them to. So they make beautiful flowers to put on your table. There are so many that are growing. You can just snip a few and enjoy its vibrant colors as you enjoy the vibrant colors of the fruits and vegetables that are growing. So I am so happy to be able to encourage you. Start small if you have to. As a matter of fact, I just saw something in a magazine the other day that somebody decided to take their front yard. They were tired of cutting grass, and they converted their entire front yard that was fenced off. It's this little small plot of land that they had to mow. They didn't want to mow anymore, and they turned that entire plot into a garden. So now instead of going to the grocery store to get their tomatoes or their green vegetables, they're planting them right outside of their front door. So there's never an excuse. If you have a desire, if you have the love for fresh fruits and vegetables, try it. I'm sure it will be very, very beneficial. So I know Chris is going to come and show you how to prepare some things. So I'm just going to set this up for him. And while he comes, and I'm going to switch the microphone over to him. And you, all right, he's coming now.
Hey everybody, welcome and happy Sabbath. Thank you. You don't have to switch the mic because unfortunately the mic is not picking up the ones that we have here. Maybe mine might be. I think it has something to do with the laptop. But I can't fix it, but we can cook. So let's do that. Thank you so much, sweetie, for sharing all the things that are in the garden. You're in front of the camera, dear. All the things that are in the garden and that we have to enjoy. Now we're going to show you how to make the greens because of everything that was planted. They're the easiest ones to grow between greens and lettuce, which is interesting because that's usually what we need, the green leafies. The others we can kind of get hit or miss, but we need the green leafy vegetables. So we're going to show you how to make mustard greens today. So to do that, what you want to do is you want to get yourself a space as you're going to be doing a lot of cutting and then you're just going to be doing some sauteing. So with our mustard greens today, we're also going to add some turnips. Now, what that is going to do to our flavor is that it's going to give you a kind of a, not spicy hot, but think spicy pepper. So if you like pepper flavor, but you don't want to use black pepper, it's like that flavor is naturally built in here into these mustard greens. So what you want to do when you get your greens, and because you either grew these or you got them from the store, you do want to make sure that they get nice and clean because of the soil that gets on them. But also you want to make sure you got any visitors, any little earthworms that might tag along for the ride. When you put them in the water, that'll clean them from the dust. And what you want to do is once you've rinsed them, you just want to take the side of your sink. Now you just hit them twice on the side of the sink. And that way, usually you'll see it maybe in a big bush, maybe one or maybe two little inchworms will come out, and they're no bigger than your fingernail. So it's nothing dramatic, but you just want to make sure you don't get that extra protein accidentally. So let's go ahead and move these over. I'm going to put this here. And now I'm going to grab a knife. Two types of knives. One knife that you're going to need is you're going to need a cutting knife, but you're also going to need a peeler, right? So you're going to need two kinds of knives. You got a big knife and a peeler. Why do I use a peeler? Because I am not a pro. My mother, she knows how to skin potatoes like a pro with a knife. I never learned the skill. So I just used a potato peeler to peel our turnips. So you've got everything you need. You got your greens, you've got your turnips, a big knife, and a peeler. Then as far as seasonings go, you just want to add a little pink Himalayan salt, a little garlic powder, and then olive oil. All right, that's what we're going to be using to kind of season our greens. So now these have already been cleaned. Make sure you clean your greens and you get yourself a nice pot like so. And all you have to do is chop them up. It's so easy to make green leafy vegetables. Some people stress over doing peas or doing split peas or doing broccoli. Those are all good. But when you think about how easy it is to grow or buy a bushel of greens, you got to get these in at least twice to 3 times a week. And it's an easy go-to green. Now with our mustard green, you'll notice that they kind of have that yellow tint. That's one way you can know the difference between those and say like a collard green, which I thought we had over here. Here we go. This is a collard green, right? And there's a type of collard. They all don't look this way, but notice how this is a solid leaf, but then you see kind of the wrinkly yellow leaf on the mustard green. And then kale's kind of in between. A kale has this texture or color, but it's crinkly or wrinkly or curly like a mustard green. So we've got our mustard greens to showcase today. All you want to do is, some people are big on stems, some are not. Tara's not a stem person. I love the stems. But if you know you got folks who don't like the stems, all you have to do is cut them off on the end. And usually when we harvest them, I'll try to snip them so that we can take them off before we get into the kitchen. But let me see if I can find one here that still has some stem on it. So if you have some that has a little stem on it, that's edible. It's completely edible and there's nothing wrong with it. The flavor is a little bit more keyed up. So no matter what kind of green you eat, if it tastes like that, it's going to taste more like that in the stem. So because of that, you want to make sure you take those off. If you don't like that flavor, I like that flavor. So it's up to you. Now I'm going to take a single leaf before I do a big bunch so I can show you. Here's a decent leaf, right? All I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this down on our cutting board and I'm just going to cut through the center. So now I've split it in half. And out of this split in half, we're just going to make our slices. I don't want a ribbon cut green. We don't like spaghetti greens, but we also don't want it to be huge, right? Like we're about to put it on the sandwich. So usually about a 1/2 inch in width is a good width. No more than an inch. Inch to a 1/2 inch will give you something that looks like this. Because remember, it's going to cook down. So don't worry about it as far as the size, but you don't want it to be so huge that you'd have to do a lot of chewing. You want to do half of the work, but not all the work. So about a 1/2 inch to an inch for the greens, all right? When we get those going, I'll flow through that, but let me show you how to work with these turnips. Another reason why I peel our turnips is because they do get very dirty, because remember, they're sitting in the soil. You can eat the skin of a turnip. You do not have to peel them. Think of a turnip like a spicy potato. Just like you can eat the potato skin, you can eat the turnip skin. However, because I know these got really dirty and I don't want to take the time to clean them that well, I'm just going to cut these skins off. And all I'm going to do is, this is the stem that was sticking out of the ground when we go ahead and pull it out. We're going to just cut the head off. All right. So we've cut the head off. Now we're going to cut off the root. These root tendrils sticking down. So now it's got something that looks kind of flat like this. So I got a flat turnip. And since we've got 2 of them here, let me go ahead and cut the bottom off of this one. Excuse me, the top off of this one. And now the bottom like that. Okay. These are great for compost. You don't have to put these in the trash, but if you got a compost pile, you can just throw those in there and they'll go ahead and be processed into something new and beautiful once that compost works. So now that we got the ends off, the hard work of the peeling is pretty much done. And so once you've got your turnip, you can just walk around it. And that's all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to walk around the turnip. And it's amazing, whoops, how soft and gentle the skin is. So this is not hard work. It's easy to do. You can get your child to help you out. Get someone who's not really a cooking pro. Get that husband, get that wife in there. Say, hey, I'm gonna let you peel the turnips. All right. Get that peeler going. And now that the peeler is doing its job, and we're just walking around the sides, and I'm just rotating it in my fingers. And so now we've gotten rid of all the skin. So it's a nice solid color. Remember, this is really, I'm cleaning the turnips because the skin is totally edible. But for now, we're just going to use them look like that, nice and pretty and clean. So I'm going to take my skins here. This can go in the compost heap. The stems, if you don't like them, can go in the compost heap and in the roots and the tops of the turnip. So let me just go ahead and get rid of these. And I'm going to come back in the frame in 3, 2 seconds and back. Now, because we're cooking these for about 10 minutes, that's not a long time. Many of you who are green veterans, you cook your greens for like an hour, 2 hours. Some people cook their greens all day. Can you do that? Absolutely. And they'll have a flavor. But the problem is you lose the nutrients. The longer you cook anything in nature, you're going to lose those enzymes that give it life. So we're not trying to cook it for 2 days, and we're not just going to cook it for 2 minutes either. We're going to try and work in that middle ground, say about 10 minutes. All right. I know for some of y'all it's going to be really short, but just try it. And you're going to get a lot more green out of your greens when you do that. So to start, let's cut the turnips first because these are hard, right? We want these to cook through. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my turnip in half. Doesn't matter what direction you do it, but you're just going to cut it in half. And I'm going to go lengthways because these are about the size of a small tennis ball. I'm going to cut these lengthwise and I'm just going to go across 1, 2. So that's given us 9 cubes of our turnips in there. Now, if these are a bit large, if they're too much for you to chew on, just double up that cut. Instead of doing 3, I'm going to do 4. And now I'm going to turn it to the side, and I'm going to go back 4 times instead of just 3. 1, 2, 3, and now that gives us 4. So these came out a little bit smaller. Turnips are interesting because they're very light. They look like a potato, like it's going to be dense or heavy, but they're actually pretty light in terms of their weight. So I'm going to go back through this here again. 1, 2, give us 3 and 4. Switch and go the other direction. 1, 2, 3, and now we got 4. So I'm going to do this one. And why am I putting these on the bottom? Remember, I'm putting these on the bottom because I want to make sure they cook through. I can kind of get away. And by the way, in case you didn't know, you can eat these raw as well. And you get that real peppery taste if you like that. But because we don't really want that strong peppery taste, got peppery turnips, and we got the mustard greens, I like to tone these down, and we're going to cook those right on the bottom. So now it's just time to chop up our greens, and we're going to fly through this. So I'm going to go ahead, lay this down on the cutting board. I'm going to cut lengthwise into the green, and then we're going to make our 1/2-inch cuts all the way across. And you're just grabbing a bunch, and you're just going through them just like that. At this point, you're going to start to smell them. And what you're smelling is the release of those enzymes. Again, that's what we want in our body. That's good stuff. We love to smell that because one of the reasons why people kind of run away from cooking greens, oh, it's going to stink up my kitchen. Well, it's not stinking up your kitchen. It's scenting up your kitchen because what you're smelling is that green that's cooking. It's letting you know that I got life in me, and I'm glad that you're taking the time to eat me. So it's nothing wrong with the smell that you're going to get when you're cooking things like cabbage or kale or collard. It's good for you, and it's temporary, so it's nothing to sweat. I realized, too, there's something I did forget to add into our ingredients here, and that is an onion. And so I'm going to grab one of our onions here in a second, and we're going to introduce that to the flavor mix, too. So I've gone through and I've chopped, and I'm going to put those in, and I'm down to the last bunch. You may be asking, like, how much is this? Is this like a pound or what? Honestly, I don't know. Remember, because it's a green. Normally, most greens are not purchased by weight, maybe cabbage, maybe broccoli. But when we're talking about these leafy greens, like all these different kinds of collards, kales, and such, they're going to be sold by the bunch because they're so easy to grow. That's why they're affordable, and that's why they're cheap in the grocery store. And there's nothing wrong with getting them in the grocery store. But if, as Tara was telling you, if you can grow them yourself, it is the best, I think the best vegetable to start with, leafy green vegetable to start with, because you're just going to get so excited watching how tall and how big it gets. And you're just eating them every day, and they just keep growing and growing and growing. All right, so now I think we've got all of the mustard greens. I'm going to go here to this bunch over here because remember, this is all going to cook down. Oh, yeah. Tara said, make sure they're clean. Yeah, I got all of these. These are all pre-clean. And so, as you can see, I forgot what size pot this is. Whatever the quart was, like a 3-quart, 2-quart, I don't know. Fill it up to the top if you can. Because remember, they're all going to cook down. So it's not going to be this massive pot like you see here. I'm going to show you in a second. This is all going to cook down. Because remember, the heat's going to break down the leaf. And it's going to be about half or maybe even a third of this. So it's okay to fill this up to the top and just let it work down. We do a couple more, and then we're going to move on. So now, 1, 2, 3, and now enough. We're done. So we are going to add the onion. So I'm going to grab one of these onions here. One of these onions that came from the garden. This is how it looks long stem. I think you showed these already, sweetie, right? So I don't have to do all that. Let's go ahead and chop them up. So I'm going to put this one in here. It's a little bit smaller. How do you deal with this? Well, again, you can eat all of this, but it's a little tough, a little fibrous. Not fibrous. It's like a scallion, but it's a huge scallion. We want this flavor down here. So we're going to cut off our top, just like we were working with the turnip. We're going to cut off the top. Some people may use the top. No problem. But we're going to cut our top off. Then you're going to cut the bottom off. So now I've got something nice and flat to work with. There is an outer layer of membrane or skin that is a little tough to eat. So you can peel that off. And that is our wild onion, domesticated now. So we've got it ready to go into our food. All of this can go into a compost bin. It breaks down. And now I'm just going to cut lengthwise through the onion so I get these discs. And if you want to, you can keep them round, but I like to cut them in half. Oh yeah, definitely. You got that onion smell. But what's interesting is that it doesn't burn your eye. It doesn't burn the eye. And that's cool. So now I took the disc and I've cut them in half. So now we got these half circles here, these C's. And all we're going to do is take those and break them up and spread them around into our green mix. I do this before I put on the oil, right? Because I'm getting my hand in here. I don't necessarily want to get my hands all oily. So I'm trying to mingle them into the pot. Don't just set them all on the top. Try and mush and mix it around so that way they fall to the bottom and to the top, and they're getting all that flavor around. And don't worry, the steam's going to cook them up nice and tender. So you don't have raw onion all in your greens. Nothing wrong with it, but you want to be nice to your neighbor. So let's keep that breath fresh. So now we got the onions all spread around, and now we're going to crown it with our seasonings. You're going to need about a teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt and a teaspoon of garlic powder. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that all around there. Okay, and now we're going to add our garlic powder. And the garlic powder, 1 teaspoon as well. I'm going to sprinkle that all around in there. Salt, garlic, and finally olive oil. Got our olive oil here. Usually about 1 tablespoon would be enough. You don't have to add any, but oil tends to mellow out the flavor of all the greens and it brings it together, and it also kind of curbs that bitterness. So that's why we recommend putting a little oil on your greens. All right, so we gave that a nice drizzle. About 1 or 2 tablespoons is good enough. Yes, you can use coconut oil. Actually, that was the one I wanted to use, but I've already used the olive oil, so we're going to stick with this one. So whether it's coconut oil or olive oil, those are your go-to oils, the ones that we recommend. So now, to go ahead and to cook these, you're going to need 2 cups of water. So I'm going to grab our cup measure here, and we're going to get 2 cups of water. Again, it is amazing how this little bit of water, again, some of y'all may be saying, what, just a cup? I usually put in a gallon of water. You don't have to put a gallon of water into the green because we're trying to steam them, not boil them, right? So we've got 2 cups. And just to make sure that I'm getting those turnips, let's say 2 to 3 cups because I had to remember I had the turnips on the bottom. Definitely 2 cups without the turnips. But because we got those turnips, I want to make sure that they get cooked through. And we want to go ahead and cover this. Always cover your pots. When you're cooking, especially trying to bring something to heat, cover it because you trap the heat. And when you trap the heat, it'll heat up faster. If you just leave it off the top and let it go, all that heat's going to get out. It's going to take a longer time. We don't want a longer time. We want a nice quick steam so we can go ahead and eat them. So now I'm going to crank this up to high. Once you hear it boiling or you see it boiling, crank it down to medium or even less and just let it work for 10 minutes, right? So I'm getting our heat up on high. Once I see it boiling, I'm going to go ahead and bring this down to like medium to mid-medium, or which would be half low, however you want to call it, and let that go for 10 minutes, and you have yourself some greens, whether they're turnip greens, whether they're mustard greens, kale, or collard, and you can enjoy them, and we're going to enjoy them by God's grace. Hopefully we'll have some at the end of our worship here today. So